Hello, fellow travelers, and welcome to another episode of the Traversing Stars podcast, third season. All my loyal listeners, thank you for your continued support. It's an amazing episode because Ewing boards the mothership to talk the Immortal Thor from Marvel Comics. Now, come on board as we go traversing the stars. Hi, Mr. Ewing. Thank you so much for coming to the Traversing Stars podcast.
Thank you. Glad to be here again.
So now you're the writer of the Immortal Thor, and you came off a amazing run, a very well received run of Immortal Hulk. So
Yeah.
So, is there something specific about the adjective immortal that kind of represents a specific theme or tone in comics that you're writing?
I want it to feel like the sort of luxury good. No, I kind of want it to be. It's more like a challenge to myself. I knew going into Thor that I wanted to do a long run. I wanted to try and get 50 issues out of it. I wanted to kind of do it at the highest level I can do stuff. Um, Try and bring my game to it. Now, there's certain so it was both like a challenge to me. It was like, well, can I do this again? Because I don't want to only do it the once. Do a comic that sort of lands on a similar level and people like as much and carries a lot of the same themes. We're starting to see the kind of environmental thing creep in. We're starting to see a couple of the horror beats. It's not a horror book, it's like a fantasy book. As we go, we're gonna kind of get more and more into other things that feelings that people might recognize from Help. Um, it was also kind of calling it that was very much I kind of didn't want to because it's like, well, everybody's gonna have these expectations, and then when they pick up issue one, it's going to be a very different book. And so it came to pass. I did do the thing again where I had two double spreads in a row. Um, that was a deliberate callback. That was a deliberate like linking motif. Um, but it is a very different book. And I know when people got started, it's settled down a little now, but when people got started, there was a lot of like from the sort of the cognoscenti, the criticarati, were very much kind of like, oh, I don't know what this is. Oh, this isn't what I expected. And it's like, yeah, that's the point. That's why it's got them all on it. But like, we're sort of settling into a bit now where I've got my feet under me now and we're starting to go places. It was also calling it that was also basically saying to editorial and the higher ups, like, look, I'm serious. I want a long run on this. And I still had to pitch a long run. I still had to go into the room and go like, okay, here's what I'm doing for the next 25 issues. Here's what I'm doing for the next 50 issues, you know. And I sort of tested the water slightly by going like, listen, this beat, do you want it in 25? Because it could go in 20. It's like, no, that's a 25 beat. And I was like, okay. Um, I still don't know how secure it is. I don't know how secure anything is, but there was definitely calling it immortal was a deliberate tying this new book to, what has been a very successful book, but also quite a critically successful book. It was basically saying to everybody, to like to myself, to the higher ups, to the editorial, to the readers. I want to try and do this again. Operative word is try. But like, yeah, and I mean, Immortal Hulk it was a very difficult book in a lot of ways. It was very kind of, I didn't have too good a time coming out the other end of it. So there is also an element of like, I want to kind of take another run at this. I want to take another run at the football and see if I can. It's like, yeah. You said it's really good. It's not, I think I want to do better. I want to have another crack at it. Um, so it's all of these things. Is the reasoning there.
Well, it's kind of ironic that Donny Cates followed your Immortal Hulk run with his Hulk run, and you follow the his Thor run with your Immortal Thor run, and it's kind of interesting. And when you think about Thor, you have a great run by Lee, Walt Simonson. Like so, you had Case had a great run. What did you decide to make your run distinct from what came before, and what did you want to add to the mythos that the others prior to you did not add?
I mean, I was coming after some great stuff in that I mean Thor has a tendency to kind of bring out everybody's A game. Um and yeah, so you had Jason doing this multi-year run, this massive epic saga, which I was kind of like off at the sidelines for the big beginning of doing Loki, and then I kind of like dipped out of Asgard altogether for like a long time. Um, and then coming after Jason, you had Donnie, who was basically did this very kind of like highly epic run, in that it was kind of trying to kind of you felt this similar sense of scale to what Jason was doing, but much more of this sort of grandiose kind of heavy metal, almost dialing that up a little bit. Um, so I guess coming after that and sort of coming in, especially coming in when that story was kind of unable to come to a close because of, Donnie's accident and the rest of it. Um, Basically, and I was kind of in at the tail end, like pinch hitting slightly. I did a couple of issues of like Thor and Venom teaming up, where like I was kind of trying to do very much. Don't ignore me. I'm not even here. This is Donny's show. Um, and kind of trying to do something he'd have liked, and take a couple of notes on him on how to leave things. The Don Blake beats at the end, where Don Blake gets infected by like evil venom, is that was basically much his specifications. So kind of coming in after all this, I knew I had to kind of make a strong left turn. And I guess the big thing was I don't really want to do a story where Thor is questioning his own worthiness, because that has been done very well. And then following that, we've had a thing where like Thor is kind of questioning his own worthiness to be king, which has been done very well. And I've kind of had a look back at like, and it was like, oh yeah, that was when he was All Father as well, and he was kind of like, oh, why do you spend so much time on Midgard? And it's like, okay. So I'm glad I didn't do that beat because that's been done very well. Um, so like, I was kind of okay. Well, we need to have a Thor who is secure in himself, and now all of the kind of the threats and the problems and the issues are kind of coming at him from outside, but like what he can do in the face of this is sort of retreat to his core and like take strength from all of the lessons he has learned in the previous runs. And in that sense, it'll both be different to what's come before, but also true to what's come before. Which is important to me because I really don't want to do this thing where it's like, oh hey, remember everything you were just reading? Well, forget it. And I did a little bit of that because I kind of brought the Rainbow Bridge back because I was like, that was my big number one moment. I was like, we got to have the Rainbow Bridge back, and since it only just got destroyed, it's got to come back at a huge, terrible cost, and we won't tell anybody what that cost is for a long time. But we'll hint at it. When I was originally thinking of it, I was like, oh, let's go really Viking with this. Let's have like Thor with a kind of a beard in plates, and like we'll sort of do the current costume, but we'll kind of Viking it up even more. We'll put lots of chainmail on him. We'll kind of have him sort of almost becoming this sort of Odin figure with like Dross, I think. And I was like, well, here's how I see Thor. And I was just like, oh, oh, oh. And then he sends me this long email, which is like, actually, I was thinking of going back to the Kirby for the covers, and this is why. And he gets into it, and it's really smart stuff because he sort of, oh, I see Thor as this kind of living piece of pop culture. I think to give Alex credit, he knows exactly what to say to me. And he's going, I see Thor as this like living piece of pop culture. And it's like, yeah, he should be like a living fiction walking the earth.
Hmm.
And sort of so no, we shouldn't like push this further. We should go back. But also, yeah, if you look at all the covers, he's got this kind of glow coming out of him from within. Alex had this thing of like, oh, he should be like glowing all the time. He should have this kind of godly radiance coming out of him. So he seems he's not like the other superheroes. He's different. And it's like, well, we can't have him do that all the time. But yeah, anytime he's using like his all power, yeah, we'll give him like the blue glow and we'll do the Alex stuff. And basically, Alex was also what did he do? So he kind of designed like, well, designed how to go back to the Kirby. He also designed Tauros, uh, which really informed a lot of stuff because I was already doing like the Art God Gods thing, and he designed Art God Loki as well. And that was all like, okay, right. So like that aligns with what I've been thinking and encourages me to push that thinking even further. Because previously it was like, well, what have we seen about God Loki? Oh, he's got a very flat hat made of gold. And he's got a kind of no, no, no. Now he looks like this, and it's like, oh, okay, wow, oh, that's frightening. Please, okay, this is now we're getting into it. And Alex designed one more thing which we haven't seen yet, and we won't for a while. But this is something I've been planning since issue one. And Alex was like, wait, 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 wait. Because I put it right at the end. I was like, oh, yeah, and then we're going to do this. If we, well, I assume we'll get that, but if we do, we'll do this. And I was like, oh, what's what's this? Tell me more about this thing. And I was like, well, this won't be till like issue 25 or so. Oh, okay. And another giant email going like, well, this is what I think. And I was like, wow. And once again, all the beats. It's like, yeah, we're on the same. And I can't say a single other word about it because it's going to come up in issue 25.
So I think one thing that's very interesting about the run, for casual Thor fans, especially fans of the films, Thor's mother has always been a Frigga, or a Frigga, however you want to pronounce the
Yeah.
name. Now, issue 8 clearly states that he's the son of Gaia, or literally Earth, Gaia. So can you explain the contradiction there a little bit, and how does this
In
change the origin and our understanding of Thor?
in the original Norse mythology, Thor is the son of Jord, who is the Earth. Um, so yeah, this is something that has always been in there. And when it kind of migrated to Marvel Comics, I believe it was Roy Thomas who really there was a period which I do need to go back and read. It's all the Ring of the Nibelung stuff. But there was a period where Roy Thomas and this is kind of after like Tales of Asgard, which
Hmm.
was in Kirby was getting into all of the Norse stuff. But I don't believe, and I'm gonna come right out of this podcast and go and hunt down Marvel Unlimited and see what the origin of Thor is under Kirby. I don't think he mentioned it. I think it was Roy Thomas who basically has Odin basically come down to Gaia and go, and it's really blatant in that first telling. It's like, hey Gaia, I'd like to do some eugenics. You game? And Gaia's like, yeah, let's make a super child. And then, Thor takes the baby back to like Frigga, who is like, hey Frigga, look, I just lay with Gaia and conceived this baby. And Frigga's like, awesome. I will raise him as my own. This is the great eugenics baby. And I'm like, oh my God. So I feel like it's kind of more of a thing in like later tellings where it's like, oh wow, so you cheated on me with the Earth lesson. It's like you're being kind of weird. And like and so it's sort of I mean the most recent one was there was a bit of talk about Thor's mother being the Phoenix, which I think was a very sort of good part of that Avengers run, but gets a little sticky with larger Thor. So I think Jason did a good thing in the end, which is he had basically the Phoenix as a sort of like midwife to Thor, kind of a godmother, in a very literal sense, and like basically that allows Thor, to um in that particular story, Thor needs a little bit of that juice and has it, and that's great. I feel like for what we're doing, we're angling slightly back towards the previous, just because there's not much as we had Thor saving a mutant and fighting Orcus in issue one. That was when I was working in the X office. That made it much easier to do. I don't really want to kind of bring X stuff in all the time. Um, I'm not like, so I'm sort of like slightly backing away from it. In the future, other writers may. I'm not closing that door. In the future, other writers may back towards it, but I do like that original mythology angle, and it works really well for what we're doing
Hmm.
in this book. So now, as the films, I can only imagine that there's only so much you can do in 2 hours. Maybe they're saving it for Thor 5. I don't know.
Well,
But it is in the original mythology, so the films are wrong.
well, one interesting thing in issue 8 as well is that Gaia states that she gave the human race Thor, and Thor is basically her mercy, to show to humanity. So what does this mean? What does she mean by this? And for which crime specifically do the humans need mercy from punishment?
I mean, look out the window. Yeah, it's like the humans have not been treating Earth well. Even in the Marvel universe, especially in the Marvel universe, like Roxanne is like unabashedly evil. Um, Probably this series. I think Gaia gets kind of a little angry sometimes in some comics, but in general, she's very cuddly. She's very much like the Earth Mother in the classic kind of 1970s sort of hippie. And if I was doing some stuff with like elder gods and sort of gods, and these horrific kind of these horrific things that Alex was like adding to the bottom of his emails. Yeah, I mean, coming face to face with Tauros, we kind of beefed him up slightly from Martin kind of beefed him up slightly from Alex's original. In Alex's original, he's like this horrific, scrawny nightmare. I assume this stuff is back matter or will become back matter, but like yeah, it was a really horrific thing. And I just thought, well, at a certain point, Thor's gonna confront Gaia. And also, we want to show Gaia at like the beginning of time. Again, I don't think this is a Roy Thomas book. This is somebody else, but it was in a Thor annual. We kind of learned where all the elder gods came from. It was basically this giant Philip K. Dick style face in the sky, like staring lightning down at the primordial earth. And that is my meat. That's my absolute jam. Anytime I can do a giant Philip K. Dick style face in the sky that is like vast and terrible and is also God, that's like I love that. That's ideal. So I love having the demiurge around. I love that all these dudes in the 70s were thinking this way too. Um, and yeah, let's have Gaia, Gaia first burst from the earth. She looks frightening and weird and inhuman. And when Thor, goes down to like her cave, like in the bottom of the Death Mountain to kind of, you know, have a stern word with her, it's like, yeah, she looks bad. This is like the grim face of nature. This is the nature that will kill you. This is if you climb Everest, you'll probably die, and you'll die in a queue because of what humans have done to Everest. And it's like there's this real thing of like we are. I'm increasingly like wonder if we're going to make it out of this one. It's sort of we really are not doing a very good job of our stewardship of the earth, and we've known we're not doing a good job for a very long time. And it's not just that like we're suddenly doing a bad job now. It's that we have always been doing a job. a bad job of the Earth, and our inertia is what Gaia is punishing us for. Our inability to change, our desperate reliance on the status quo. Now, this is all taking place in a superhero comic, so we're getting some wheels within wheels here. We're getting some meta. Um, and yeah, one of the questions is like, okay, can Thor change? Yeah, can Thor really change? He's smiling more. He's got it, he's got it all. That's all. Is he? I mean, we're sort of doing this thing where Thor's kind of on this quest that he doesn't fully know he's on, but he's gained one additional magical weapon already, which he's about to be tested with. I can't say more about that, but it's like, yeah, um, are you worthy to kind of wield this thing means different things with different magical weapons, and it's like sometimes it's just are you good with it? Um, But like basically, yeah, Thor is kind of on this quest where he is to gain these magical weapons and sort of learn their use. Yeah, what Gaia is kind of all about is basically humanity cannot change until we absolutely have to. And like the time is coming fast when we're absolutely gonna have to. You ask why Gaia is kind of punishing humanity. It's like, well, it's on two levels. It's one, it's like, okay, well, the elder gods, bring the elder gods out to kind of punish the world. That's a very sort of mythological kind of punishment for hubris. And two, it's like the problem here is kind of it's a refusal to change. It's a refusal to leave the comfortable systems
Hmm.
that we're in. I'm as guilty of this as anybody else. I'm
Because you have the concept of Gaia as very much the villain Thor has to confront her. It's Gaia representing the Earth. If Thor beats Gaia, or what does that
I mean,
mean for the Earth?
Thor cannot beat Gaia. Thor cannot fight Gaia. All Thor can do is stay her wrath. I mean, Go makes that very clear because Thor kind of does the thing of knocking her head off. And Gara's like, well, yeah, but realistically, though, that's not, you're just acting up at this point. Um, but yeah, so Thor cannot fight Gaia, cannot beat Gaia. All Thor can do is sort of stay Gaia's wrath, and um, who Thor can beat is the Elder Gods who Gaia has unleashed because Gaia's not attacking Earth and humanity herself. Um, it could be argued that like the systems of the environmental systems of the Earth are kind of, but that's because of things that we have done. I don't think Gaia does not have a thumb on the scales in this. What Gaia has done is basically let loose the elder gods as a kind of warning to humanity. And what Thor can do is like deal with the elder gods and sort of buy humanity more time. But it's like, yeah, that's sort of why um, we're getting into stuff where like the larger, I can't really talk about without sort of spoiling some stuff and sort of getting into conversations that are going to get a little bit spoilery. It's like, yeah, this it's the whole thing's going to go places, but this is where it's starting out. It's basically going, look, yeah, I am, the cuddly guy that you've always seen. I am also this,
Mhm.
um, and you have ignored that for a very long time. And honestly, uh, you shouldn't have, because now things are getting bad.
Well, the
Yeah.
issue ends with Thor visiting the offices of the Minotaur. So,
Yeah.
what can the Minotaur do in the situation that Thor can't do?
I mean, just stop being a monitor. It's like it's basically it. I mean, this is again, I don't want to spoil a comic that's out literally days from now. But this isn't the most together plan Thor's ever had. Uh, it's pretty much right. Well, if you want me to confront a polluter, I will. Here's one. Here's the one I know. Here's one I'm on, like speaking terms with. Thor does not know. Like it's Thor's going to Roxxon. He's going to fight an enemy he can understand, essentially. Um, but like, yeah, the Minotaur is basically a kind of I mean, Jason kind of created him as a sort of unfettered end stage capitalism force. He's always kind of been that. He's also like self-destructive in the way that end stage capitalism also is, in that, the fact that he's basically talking to Thor without his face on it, um, as a memento of his last brilliant idea, um, is kind of is very telling. I think basically, I mean, the Minotaur gives a speech in the coming comic that's basically like, "This is what my deal is. This is why I do it." And I feel like that's what he says is kind of true of. I don't know. I'm not a big fan of people with $1 billion. I don't. I don't think having that much money is, or sort of gaining that much money is kind of possible without a degree of exploitation of your fellow human beings. And that's the Minotaur. The Minotaur is kind of one of these great characters. I basically Jason stopped me from killing him last time. I was like, and then well, kills the Minotaur. And Jason was like, don't do that, don't do that. You're gonna need this guy again. I was like, okay, well, he just really hurts the Minotaur. And it's like, yeah, but it's I don't know. The Minotaur is basically, I think, quite a necessary villain because he's both that very cartoonish kind of Captain Planet style enemy, and he's also kind of a reminder that yeah, those guys are real now.
Hmm.
Um, we've sort of gone off the bit where these people would sort of wear suits somewhere and keep quiet. Now they're all like, they're all on buying social media, so we all know how stupid they are. Yeah. So anyway, I don't know. I'm sort of I'm very aware that like I reap I reap the benefits of the capitalist system. I'm also aware that you can reap you can have enough, and the more people who have enough, the better it is.
Hmm.
And maybe the system could be a little less capitalist, so more people could have enough, and also we could maybe fix some of the stuff that is being driven by. I mean, obviously, I live in England, where the trains no longer exist, and the rivers are literally filled with shit. Quite literally packed with shit. Because somebody with shares in the water companies wanted a yacht. It's like I would like a river that is not full of shit. Um, I would like to be able to kind of to have that. Anyway, that's what Thor's about.
So, what can listeners look forward to in the next upcoming issues of Thor, Immortal Thor?
You can look forward to things getting more mythical. We have a couple of issues of Thor versus the Minotaur, which kind of segues into the Rocks on Thor, which was originally we were going to have an extra sized issue of Thor, where as a backup strip we did a bit. Then um the strangest thing, the higher ups heard about the bit, and instead of saying, please don't do that bit, they were like, let's have a whole issue that does the bit. And let's make up like a fake a fake Roxxon comic and let's put it out and it'll be hilarious. And I was like, okay, well now I have to make it hilarious. So I put my best foot forward on that, and I did a funny thing. There's a bit where it's sort of the comic turns on itself for existing, because I started to become very aware of like, well, if they're giving you a whole comic, it can't be that stupid. Um, so yeah, it goes at some low hanging fruit. It goes at itself. It's sort of I don't know if people read it and go like, this feels to me like an issue of Ambush Bug. I've done my job. Um, it's a fun thing. We have a lot of fun with the Rocks and Thor. And it's so that's basically takes us up to issue 10. After that, we get into a thing where I started counting how many children Odin had, and I was like, oh, why don't we get them all in a room together? And then I thought, well, Um, why don't we invent a new one? It's taken from the Norse mythology, and I've probably, if people have been following Thor and kind of following like this list, you probably know who it is. But like, yeah, a brand new Odin child will turn up, and go on an adventure with all of the other Odin children, every single one, even Vidar. My biggest surprise during this, and I very nearly made a terrible mistake, which would have had all of the mythological people mad at me. Hermod, the swift messenger god, who is the son of Odin. I thought he'd been made up for the modern comics because they needed a super speeder Asgardian, and they thought, oh, let's do Hermes, but no, he's in the Eddas. He's the messenger of Odin. He's entirely real Norse mythological figure. Um, just astonishing, astonishing bit of work there from sorry, it's the North, whoever it was. Just going like, let's steal Hermes. Um, I don't know the ins and outs. You'd need to be a proper historian to really get in on that. But yeah, basically Hermod is there. Um, and it all kind of revolves around in issue one where Tyr, the God of War, went into that box, and that page at the back that was connected to and written by Jonathan Hickman and connected to his GODS. I guess Maxi series now. They're stopping at 8. I hope they carry on later. It's been a lot of fun. It's I was like, well, how can I make this work for me? And I did make it work for me. Um, so yeah, at the time, Jonathan was like, oh, I want to use Balder, and I was like, I might need Balder, because he's like a big son of Odin. How about Tyr? And yeah, Jonathan's like, yeah, it works just as well for Tyr. And it does, it works better for Tyr. But it turns out, this is the first real appearance of Boulder that we've seen in the comics issue 11. So I was wrong about that. I didn't need him. Um, but at the same time, it does work much better for me that it's Tyr in the box, um, in a lot of ways. So we get to have a lot of fun with that. We get to pick up on a couple of threads, like a couple of cliffhangers we've seen already. We get to pick up on. Following that, I think now we're getting into stuff that has not been listed yet. But I will say an old buddy of Thor's is back. Uh, an old Team Supreme is back to answer a question people have been asking about turning wheels, and people who yell a lot about the wheel having turned in my work. So an old buddy of Thor's is going to come and just party up the place a little bit, make bring turn everybody's frown upside down. Uh, and you can probably guess who it is based on those clues. And after that, I really can't say anything because I've already hinted that giant things are coming in. Ideally, issue 25, maybe sooner you know um if we need to, but like we'll see. So yeah, that is what is upcoming in Thor. So it's going quite sort of mythological, both kind of Marvel cosmic and also Norse myth. If people are like, I've had enough of this commie talk from you, then it's that is we're gonna dip in and out of that. The Minotaur isn't gonna be like public enemy number one of this book. There are bigger foes to fight.
Well, it sounds absolutely awesome. Like I said, I'm loving what you're doing with Immortal Thor. Mr. Ewing, been an absolute pleasure, sir.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much, sir. Have a great night. Thank you for listening to another episode of the Adversing Stars podcast. Please help me battle those algorithms by liking and subscribing. Be sure to return for the next episode when we are visited by Carissa Grant.